One of the biggest tragedies of the last year, of 2019 film going wise, in my opinion, my personal opinion, was that Ben Affleck left being Batman. I had held out hope for so long that he was going to like wrestle his demons and he was going to come through with a good script and he was going to direct this movie and we were going to see him get to become the Dark Knight that he wants to be and that I know he can produce. And then he walked away from it. And I still was trying to figure out why. And I wasn't too sure if it was because Warner Brothers sidelined him because of everything that had happened with Justice League and Batman v Superman, as if any of it was his fault. But then I also was curious if it had anything to do with Live by Night, his vanity project, his $75 million loss for Warner Brothers vanity project that they gave him after he won Best Picture for Argo. Turns out none of those things are apparently accurate, but he actually talked a bit about it here. He says in a new interview, Ben Affleck opens up about why he left the Batman. It says here, so what happened? Why did Ben Affleck leave the Batman? That's undoubtedly a complicated question. As a response to Affleck's casting in Batman v Superman in the first place was met with a lot of hot takes aplenty. I actually, to be fair, I supported him as Batfleck from the beginning, from 2013 when they announced it at Comic-Con. I caught a lot of flack for that back then, and then I was also proven right because people really liked him. Anyway, reviews for Affleck's performance in the film were kind, but then production on Justice League was something of a mess. Zack Snyder's original vision was reworked during filming due to lackluster response to Batman v Superman, and eventually Joss Whedon was hired to write and direct significant reshoots. Well, let's also be fair, he had to exit the project because of what happened to his daughter. That is a very significant factor, as well as there was an upset that happened at DC Films with Snyder being removed from the person running the DCEU, Jeff Johns being brought in, and a lot of other crap that went down as well. But it also, in my opinion, goes to the top with Kevin Tusahara, who was the guy who was running Warner's at the time, and as a result of that, he kind of messed the whole thing up. Anyway, what was intended to be a triumphant DC superhero team up was a genuine disaster. Yeah, it was. Anyway, so the whole experience was certainly trying for Affleck, who you recall at this point was an Oscar-winning screenwriter and producer with a successful directing career of his own. But at the time that the Batman was coming together, Affleck's personal life was suffering. In a candid new interview with the New York Times, the actor and filmmaker opened up about how he began drinking heavily while his marriage was falling apart. And that is true. I mean, if you know, like Affleck and Jennifer Garner had a very public, very messy divorce, very messy breakup. He was in and out of rehab. He was very much just like kind of at this point in his life where it just wasn't going well for him. And as a fan of Affleck, and I've been a fan of Affleck for a long time, it sucked to watch. It really did. It was terrible to watch. And that had everything to do with the fact that I was just sad for the guy because like there's nothing that any one of us can do. It's like watching a slow motion train wreck from the sidelines. There's nothing we can do about it. Our entire job, kinda, so to speak, is to sit there and just watch it happen and then hope for the best. But just in the world of Hollywood, nothing ever really happens that's good, it feels like. But anyway, he says here, I drank relatively normally for a long time. What happened was that I started drinking more and more and my marriage is falling apart. This was 2015, 2016. My drinking, of course, created more marital problems. And that's actually true. And not just that, but there's also a drastic weight gain that happened. If you go and you watch the original trailer, the 2016 Comic-Con Justice League trailer, Affleck was in very good shape then. Go watch 2017's Justice League because remember they shot like 80 pages of Joss Whedon's script. From there, he ended up like gaining he was like fat Affleck. He was bloated Affleck in Justice League. It was pretty bad. It was noticeable. It was really, really noticeable. They tried covering it up with his hair, but it didn't work out very well. You could easily notice, and it was another thing they should have just waited on. Anyway, coming off the reaction to Batman v Superman, the sad Batman meme from that film's press junket, and the troubled production of Justice League, a friend of Affleck's cautioned against wading back into the DC waters with the Batman. The sad Batman thing was pretty funny, I will fully admit, but it says here, he's like, I showed somebody the Batman script, Affleck recalled, and they said, I think the script is good. I also think you'll drink yourself to death if you go through what you just went through again. And that, I mean, that's kind of what pushed him the other way, right? It's kind of what pushed him the other way on that one was that, you know, he had just like, he was working on it. He said in the Jimmy Kimmel interview where he formally announced his departure that he had said that, you know, he couldn't crack the nut. He had tried cracking the story. But what this says to me is that he cracked it. We knew he cracked it because they were already doing screen testing for Deathstroke, and they knew what they wanted to do with it. And but the thing was, it was just so much of a commitment for him that it was going to just be detrimental to his health. This is indeed the New York Times piece says cursed shoot for Justice League sapped his interest in returning. Rumors swirled in the summer of 2017 that Affleck was exiting the role of Batman altogether, but that news wasn't made official until January 2019. Actually, in 2017 at Comic-Con, he fully announced that he was still Batman, but that was also, I think, right before Justice League came out, so they wanted to, make it like that. And I get it. Now, it says here that this is entirely conjecture on my part, but it's possible that Affleck had already made it known to Warner Brothers that he wanted out in 2017, but the studio still had Justice League and other DC films to promote and didn't want to further dissuade audiences from buying a ticket. No, that's probably more accurate than not. And that's one of the problems that sucks about PR in Hollywood, right? You never really get the truth. Now it says here, and they go and say here, okay, hence why the actor's exit from the role wasn't made official till long after Justice League had already crashed and burned, and the studio had decided to move away from an interconnected universe idea. But that's going to kill them now. They're going to stick with that because, Joker, 1.1 billion, Birds of Prey, not so much. Not anywhere near that amount, and it's kind of crashing and failing. So anyway, it says all's well that ends well, though. Most importantly, Affleck seems healthier and sober now, and he can be seen on screen in the drama The Way Back, which is about a reluctant basketball coach struggling with alcoholism at the end of his marriage. And he says here that he found it cathartic, and everything else. So here's how I view the situation, because here's what I think is going to be happening. And this is my take. Affleck will get clean. He's clean. Warner's is not. Warner's is loyal. They're a very loyal company. He won them an Academy Award for Best Picture. They're loyal. All he has to do is call them back up and say, I want to do Batman. And they'll be like, okay. Right? That's all he has to do. They're shooting Matt Reeves right now. They're doing the younger version of it. This version of it is going to take place like in the 90s, apparently. So if it takes place in the 90s, it's not going to be connected to the DCEU as we know it. And then Robert Pattinson is still far younger than, like 20 years younger than Ben Affleck almost. So they could easily just move it forward and have it still be this Batman, but older. And we could get that particular story. And I do think that is going to happen. I do see that happening. Not for a long time, but I do see it happening. And I know it really depends on whether or not they do more than just a trilogy with Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves at the helm. And the thing is, I think it's going to take a long time, and Affleck could just be too old at that point to even come back into it. But the dude is a card carrying Batman fanatic, he's a card carrying Batman fanatic. Look, Daredevil crashed and burned, and he waited a long time. He came back in with this role. People love him in the role. They still love him in the role. Release the Snyder Cut trends like monthly on Twitter whenever fans decide to kind of rally together and get it trending again because they don't want Warners to forget about them. And I'm pretty sure you could probably get the Snyder Cut people to start campaigning for Affleck to come back as Batman. And I think they should. I do. I think they should. I think they should rally together and start putting out notes for Affleck to come on back. Like if he's not at the end of his marriage anymore, if he's found catharsis through making a movie about an alcoholic at the end of his marriage, then, and that allowed him to work through his pain, then let him come back to Batman. Robert Pattinson isn't going to play him forever. I mean, the dude did 5 Twilight movies, so he knows what it's like to be in a franchise, but I don't think they're going to take it past this. And look, DC cannot drop the interconnected universe. Fans will not let them. I think Birds of Prey has taken a hit predominantly because they're dropping a bit of that stuff. If you want my honest opinion, I do think that the lack of support for the DCEU is keeping a lot of people away. People like the interconnected universes. The homogenization of all of that is one of the reasons why the Marvel Cinematic Universe does well. And we know that Warner's really wants that to do well. It's not. Anyway, maybe it will get better with the Suicide Squad. Maybe it'll get better with other things. Anyway, I wish Ben Affleck all the luck in the world. Back to health, back to happiness, being content. I also would love him to come back as Batman. I loved Batman v Superman. I loved him in that role. I loved him in Justice League because I just like him as Batman. I think he's a great Batman. I think he brought a lot to the role, and he had a good chemistry with Henry Cavill, and I want to see him back as Superman because I want, and this is all my own fan love. I know it's probably not going to happen, but as a long-term fan of the DCU, as a card-carrying supporter of the DCEU, who has been for years, wants them to pull their head out of their ass and like sit down and make it work. But I feel like they're probably not going to. And, but I still think that Affleck, if he wanted to come back, they could, Batman Beyond movie or something, but I still think he should be Batman again. And I hope one day we'll get to see him in the role. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your opinions. Let me know down in the comments below. I'll talk to you guys all later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you for watching, and peace out.